Welcome to another conversation in People in Fundraising. This podcast features interviews with nonprofit professionals who discuss their career journeys, lessons learned, and enthusiasm for working in fundraising. And here is your host, the founder of People in Fundraising, Tim Wilson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another conversation in the People in Fundraising weekly nonprofit podcast series. Today, I am very excited to welcome Sok Tng to our program. We got connected through Julie Wen, who serves with me, and she's more senior than I am, on the APRA Board of Directors. So, Julie, thank you for connecting Sok with me today. And I am very excited first to get to know you, Sok, and also because you, toward the second half of our conversation today, have provided a really interesting menu of other topics that we can discuss right here, and perhaps even when your interview airs. If other people that listen in watch your conversation, please feel free to chime in the comments, because they are some very topical and significant questions, and I think they're better than the questions I ask. So thank you for thank you for supplying those ahead of time, Sok. Now, I'll pause there. Please introduce yourself and what would you like to have our audience know about you?
Hi, Tim. Thank you so much for having me. I am actually really excited to be being interviewed by you today. My name is Sok Tng, and I am the Associate Director of Prospect Research and Relationship Management at Pomona College in Claremont, California. So thank you again. I am in the greater Los Angeles area right now.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, we have a really interesting way to kick off today's interview. I normally ask people to talk briefly about how they entered the fundraising profession, and we will do that with you as well.
Okay.
But before then, Sok, you had quite an interesting career history. Please share that with our audience. I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for your interest. So, my childhood dream was to become a veterinarian, and I've always wanted to become a wildlife veterinarian
Mm,
to work in wildlife conservation. But of course, unfortunately, that did not happen. But I did have my undergraduate major in wildlife biology. And then after that, I worked in the regulation of the trade in endangered species of wild flora and fauna for a
mhm,
couple of years. And then I went back to graduate school and did my master's in applied ecology and conservation biology. Um, Due to family circumstances, unfortunately, I did not finish my degree. I was not able to complete my theses and research, but I did finish my coursework. So I've always been interested in, the area of wildlife conservation, even veterinary medicine, especially as it pertains to wildlife conservation.
mm.
So yes, as Tim mentioned, I had also worked as an animal nurse before, both in domestic cats and dogs clinics. And then I was a zookeeper as well before, where I worked at the zoo as a keeper in the California sea lion section. And then I also dealt with polar bears, penguins, pelicans, love them all. And then, during that course of time, I was also fortunate to kind of tag along with the zoo vets, and then I helped with like biopsies, pathology, as well as treatment, medication, etc., etc. So
Oh
yeah,
my, that's amazing.
thank you.
I imagine you have seen just the beautiful diversity of the flora and fauna, as well as some significant scientific advancements in treating animals and conservation efforts as well. And we could spend the whole hour talking just about those topics.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
oh, that's great. And so, how did you get from wildlife conservation, zookeeping, the
Mhm.
academic side of it earlier too? Where did you go next, Sok?
So, yes, I kind of considered that. I always say that was my previous life. And then the transition into my current life happened when, life happens, as everybody says.
Yeah.
And then I got my master's in information studies.
Okay.
And that totally opened a whole suite of doors for me after that. So after I moved to the greater Los Angeles area, I became a librarian at two libraries, and these two libraries were very specific
Hmm.
to philanthropy and the nonprofit sector. So anything to do with 501c3 organizations. And the materials in that library covered anything from fundraising, philanthropy, governance, board of trustees, you name it. It was all in there in those two libraries. And that was actually really, really amazing for me because um, to begin with, I learned a whole lot. It was like a crash course in the world of philanthropy and the nonprofit sector. Again, it was very specific to 501c3 organizations.
Hmm.
But at the same time, there were a lot of personnel from even the for-profit world who would come in to use the materials at those two libraries. So I got to know a little bit, a sampling of things across the spectrum of the nonprofit sector, as well as a little bit here and there from
Yeah.
the for-profit sector and how they intersected. And that was another pivotal moment in my life as well as my career. But unfortunately, those two libraries closed due
Oh,
to funding issues, of course,
okay.
as well as one of the organizations that the library was housed at, the the board of trustees, the board of directors changed the mission. So
Hmm.
the organization decided to go another route, and hence they had to close that library, which is really
Hmm.
unfortunate.
That's too
And
bad.
because during those during the days when I was at those two libraries, I was also conducting training in grant seeking.
Oh,
Yeah, so that was also very exciting because that was how I was able to interact with a lot of nonprofit organizations in the greater LA area
yeah.
that enabled me to have that little kind of that peek into the sector as well on the practical, pragmatic side of things, because that's where the practitioners are.
Yes.
And yeah, so when the libraries closed, I was obviously out of a job.
Yeah.
I was like asking myself, okay, what am I going to do next? And
Sure.
so I knew a little bit about grant seeking and fundraising from the foundation angle.
Yes.
And there was a chance meeting again when I remember this quite distinctly. There were two prospect researchers. Of course, at that time, I had no idea what prospect research was all about. Didn't even knew that it was a thing. So I happened to meet these two prospect researchers who came into the library, one of the libraries one day, and they told me about prospect research. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I should be doing. I need to know who are these prospects and donors and what this whole field is all about. So
Yeah.
I started, yeah, and so I started getting my hands on whatever books and materials I could lay my hands on in the library. I was working in the library. I had all sorts of resources at my hands. So yeah, so when those two libraries officially closed, I then started looking for a job specifically in prospect research.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because voila, I finally got to know that there was this thing called prospect research. Um, So I was really, really lucky. I actually landed a job, my first job as a prospect researcher
Okay.
in a major university in the greater LA area.
Wonderful.
Um, and and it kind of just took off from there. I'm very, very thankful to my managers as well as my coworkers at that time who were so supportive and who were so willing to share and trained me in so many areas. Um, and that's how as everybody said, we kind of just fell into the profession. So
Right. I love that there are these serendipitous moments in
yeah.
your career journey, specifically, getting into the practical fundraising
Mhm.
side of it. Because there's you don't get a degree, you don't as an undergraduate and I want to do prospect research when I grow up. So that's really, really cool. And as you were learning about prospect research, Sok, do you remember like what appealed to you specifically about that sector within nonprofit development?
Yeah, so I love research. I think there is something that really grounds me. And that was why I did my master's in information science, information studies actually. And then because at that time I did not, as I said, I did not know anything about philanthropy, about fundraising, much less advancement and development. Those were
Sure.
all foreign terms. But because I love research, I'm always wanting to find out more, and I always wanted to see, the research after the research is done, how do you connect the dots?
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that is so key in our profession.
yeah,
That's what we do in prospect research, in prospect management. I always feel like, yes, we can go down various rabbit holes
sure.
and, uncover things. But then what do you do with that information?
Yeah,
A piece of information is only information um, until and unless you can make use of it.
that's true.
How do you leverage that? And I think that is where that prospect management side of things come in.
Mm.
Yeah, so that definitely is kind of what excites me as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's marvelous. Thank you. And how long have
Yeah.
you been at Pomona College, Sok?
Just 2 years.
Okay,
Yeah,
very good.
yeah,
Um, I totally appreciate and am with you on that note about, you uncover information, data about a prospect, but you then have to turn it into an actionable intelligence
right,
format. And how does this collection of information you've gathered, you've found, connect the dots to your organization's mission, any specific funding interests, particular development directors, fundraisers, and that makes it really interesting and challenging.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, to kind of add a little bit more to that, when I first entered the profession, I always felt like, oh, prospect research and prospect development is kind of like finding pieces of a big jigsaw puzzle and then putting it together to
Yeah.
complete the picture as much as possible. But I think as I moved along in the profession, I am beginning to feel like it's more being able to locate seemingly disparate pieces of information
Hmm.
and like forming a collage.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's kind of the excitement because then you can make sense. Going back to what I said earlier, making sense and leveraging the information that we locate and we gather to make it into that collage, that whether it's a picture, so whether it is generating a research profile or using information to put together a portfolio, um, for analysis purpose.
Yes,
That is so exciting.
definitely.
Yeah.
I wonder if, because you mentioned just a moment ago how you love research, and I wonder if there are ties, given your strong academic background and then your practical application in animal welfare and being a zookeeper and learning about how to care for animals. I feel like there's got to be some connection there between, that part of your life and that part of your
Yeah.
brain and your skills. And now you just transfer, not, and now you have transferred it to, I'm learning
Yeah.
about a donor, and here is the
Right.
strategic intelligence that
Yes.
we're going to move upon.
I, you are the first person ever to have asked me this question, how my previous life relates to my current life. So thank you, Tim, for asking that. Yes, I do. I actually do use a lot of the quote unquote skills that I had learned when I was in wildlife biology, animal conservation, those kinds of areas. Research definitely is one. Um, Being analytical is another,
Oh, yeah.
because when I was in that area, I was always constantly, we were trained to be constantly thinking about the next thing. It's like,
Hmm.
what does this imply? When you see that sample of a biopsy, what diseases is that and what caused the disease and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then the other thing about being in wildlife biology before is to thinking in an ecosystem way.
Oh, yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, I think it is so inevitable and sometimes it's so unconscious of me that I always think in a very ecosystem systematic way. So whether it is coming in to do a research profile, every time whenever I get a request for research, I want to sit down with the requester, like, what is it that you're trying to get at?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Definitely.
classic. Yeah, isn't it that classic interview question? Because a lot of times these gift officers, they have fantastic ideas. They're working on things that we may, as prospect researchers and prospect development people, we may not really know. And of course, we cannot read their minds, but
Right.
they're trying to get to something, whether it's a piece of information about a donor, a prospect, so that they can have that cultivation conversation,
Yeah.
or whether they are wanting to think about, okay, what is the ask amount that I should
Right.
put in a proposal,
That's right.
right? So sitting down and having, well, maybe not sitting down, but zooming down or whatever you want to do it, however you want to do it. But having that conversation with your collaborator is so important.
I totally agree. Yes.
Yeah, because that's what I always tell, whether it's my staff or um, people that I talk to at the places that I volunteer, is that it is so important to be able to work together,
Yes.
because I can read your mind,
That's right.
but I know where to get that information and I know how to access a lot of information. I can't get to all the information you want, but if you tell me what you're trying to get to, I will try my best to locate those pieces of information. And if I cannot locate exactly what you want or exactly what you have in mind, I can make suggestions on how you can use the information that I have located for the purpose that you are aiming for.
Yes. Spoken like a true strategic analyst, Sok. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Tim.
And I want to put a pin in that part of the conversation and come back to it. I think in one of the sections we'll get to, like, other areas, other topics, I think at least some of what you just said there resonates with one of the subjects that you shared with me here to talk about. So we'll get to that in a moment. But this, I think we'll transition now to the second part of the conversation. And as I mentioned earlier, you provided generously a few other areas of a conversation for us to explore together. And again, we can open it up to people when they watch or listen to your interview.
Sure.
And if it's okay, I think we'll just start in the order that you sent them to me, Sok.
Okay.
One of your observations was that you would love to see APRA and or AASP set up committees to discuss upcoming trends in our industry, such as artificial intelligence tools, multicultural fundraising, international fundraising, and what those committees could do, what they could study and put into practice, and what that would imply for advancement in the United States and perhaps for people that work in advancement around our world. So did anything come to mind for you specifically about artificial intelligence or multicultural fundraising that you would like to share and perhaps brainstorm how these professional organizations can address these topics?
Yeah, I think I already see the evolution and the the momentum that has been gaining in terms of what technology is doing to our profession. And then also more specifically how AI is impacting and will continue to impact the whole field. And
Yeah.
I think it's not just in prospect research and prospect development, but the whole field of philanthropy and the nonprofit sector as a whole.
Yes.
So it is very exciting because it means that we are keeping up with the times.
That's right.
So that's good. But I feel like I don't want to, it's almost coming from an anger, a perspective of like caution that yes, we should, it's inevitable. We have to embrace technology. It's inevitable. We have to embrace AI. But I think we don't want to let technology, whether it's AI, whether it's technology, and AI is very much part of technology, to determine who we are as
Sure.
professionals, as in our industry. We want to be able to leverage it, to make use of it for the betterment of ourselves as well as for the industry.
Yes.
So I'm not a technical person. I tell everybody that. But like what you said, Tim, I think it's really important for all of us coming into the industry, no matter what stage we are in our careers right now, to have some kind of understanding of technology and AI. I think that is what is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I have to say, US may be falling behind on that because there are countries out there that may be racing ahead, if not already ahead of us, or potentially can get ahead of us in these kinds of areas. I'm talking about China, of course. And and even India.
Yes. Yeah.
So what I want to say is that we want to not drive ourselves out of a career.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we are all here for. That's why you are having this podcast, because we want to learn from each other. And I think it's really important to have a pulse on these areas. It's important for our professional organizations, such as APRA, ASP, for instance, for those of us who are able to really spend time or to come together and think about what are the future trends going to be that may, or it may not affect us, but
Yeah.
it's good to keep a pulse, because that's what I feel that when I first entered the nonprofit sector, when I was as I'm using the two libraries that I had worked at way back when as an example, that time and now, thinking through all those years, I'm so glad to say that I think people are a lot more aware and willing to think about, okay, what are the other things that are happening in the world or happening in other industries that can potentially impact our industry.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we should not keep thinking that, hey, we all work in the nonprofit sector and this is how things are going to be. No, because there is no just kind of um partitioning ourselves out to be saying that we work in the nonprofit sector, because we are always having to work with people in the for-profit sector, in the government sector, and the kinds of things that happen in those other sectors are going to impact us.
That's exactly right. Yes. Yeah. And these trends by their nature, because they're far reaching and very impactful, and they are driven by technology and advancing technology is in part driven by markets as well as
Yes.
governments as well as
Hmm.
militaries. Um,
Exactly.
I read something this week about how China is using artificial intelligence to study falcons and another type of animal and their flight patterns, their wing dynamics, and using those studies to refine existing military hardware and develop new military hardware. So once one company or one country gets out ahead of an emerging trend, you quickly see others, whether it's countries or companies, try to catch up. And these technologies move and change so quickly. We talked before we were recording, Sok. I came across a post on LinkedIn this week where someone was pretty enthusiastic about cutting off their Chat GPT subscription. And they had a whole host of reasons why, and then making the case for why this person was pivoting to Claude.
Hmm.
And again, a whole bunch of reasons for Claude and not to use Chat GPT. So, like just a couple of years ago, like if you were following the news, Chat
Yeah.
GPT was the one that people were
Yeah.
familiar with. And now there are a whole bunch of competitors, and
Yes.
some will eventually outshine others.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, it's hard to stay up to date both theoretically and practically with so many of these changes. Once you get used to, oh, I'm going to use artificial intelligence to write my narrative for Sok's interview on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
6 months later, there's a different tool that can synthesize it in half the time. And,
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
so,
Yeah,
and how do you fit that all into your daily life and still find enjoyment in the human experience?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes, I have two boys, so I don't want to come to a day where I have to use either Chat GPT or any of these AI things to communicate with my sons, right?
Agreed.
So yeah.
Yes. Um, let's go to your next one. This is also really interesting. I think it ties
Okay.
in, well to what we're talking about with artificial intelligence. And
Mm-hmm.
as AI and machine learning and all that comes with it continues to evolve, it could pros and cons. It could, have implications for current jobs as well as creating new paths and career opportunities.
Right.
You posed a question here, what are other career options open for prospect development people? Should we become enamored of,
Mm-hmm.
technology that creates other opportunities in our career? So what comes to mind for you in terms, because you came from a library background, and then
Right.
previously that, obviously the animal biology, and now into prospect research. So I think you're well versed at how you pivot careers and transfer skills. What might come to mind for you to answer your own question here?
So I think the first thing is, again, these are my very personal perspectives, and
Yeah.
I will be very curious to know what other people are thinking about. When I first entered the prospect research and prospect development field, I felt almost like w myself and my team, we were kind of siloed, as in,
Mm.
okay, you do prospect research and management, and this is all you do.
That's right.
And yeah, the beginning and the start, period. But I think because the way we function, the prospect researchers that and prospect development colleagues that I know of are so highly intelligent, so talented, so creative and innovative. I just feel that it's almost criminal to kind of just tell the world that, hey, this is where you're restricted. You do process research and development, and this is it.
Yeah.
So I want to say that I want to put it out there that we in our profession should also step up and let the world know that yes, our day to day is whether it's process research, development, blah blah, but we are very, very analytical.
Yes.
We are just not going down every rabbit hole.
That's right.
The kinds of things that we do entails of course, a lot of us, we are very detail oriented. Yeah.
Yep, I am.
And yes, I can see that. And and we are very collaborative.
Mhm.
We are also extremely solution oriented.
I agree.
And these are all things that I think we need to tell the rest of, whether it is the philanthropic sector or whether it is just within development shops or advancement shops, that we people like in the product research and development field, um, we are able to do other things. So, for instance, in my team right now, we collaborate extensively with the CRM team
Oh, okay.
because so another kind of like insight I have gained through the years is I see product research and development almost like a um, kind of like the centerpiece, the hub of like a wheel, for instance.
I love that.
Yeah. Our shop, we are getting information from all these other departments. And at the same time, whether we are researching or we are analyzing, and then we are putting out information back, to all these other departments as well.
Yes.
So because of that, a lot of us in the profession will have actually a really pretty good overview of what goes on in the other departments within advancement or development.
Exactly.
So when it comes to, let's say, helping to do data migration into preparing for a new CRM, for instance, it is really important to get the inputs from cross-site research and development.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We and this is again is very cliche. Whatever that you put into the CRM is, garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
And this is why I always tell people too that we need to be able to we need to be able to we can help talk about how to structure the database. We can help talk about how to input information into the database. It has to be methodical, it has to be structured, it has to be done in a way that when you put the information in, you can spit it out
Yes.
to analyze it.
Yes.
So, these are the kinds of things which I think in our day to day, we are encountering it, but maybe some of us are not really actively, intentionally thinking about, especially if you're kind of new to the field.
I can see
So,
that. Yeah.
yeah, so that's where I think there is a lot of interaction with the technology piece as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point there. And I think as the host, I always try to look for how to go from one observation to the next question and
Mhm,
tie it in. And I think a couple of things. So earlier in our recording, you talked about helping to shift the mindset that, this is prospect research. You come to me with a request for information. I provide it. That's sort of that spoke and wheel you were mentioning earlier. But that's not enough. It's helping the gift officer understand how that information you found has practical application to their portfolio strategy. And then
right.
and then just here, your second point that I think ties into this last uh, observation of yours, particularly maybe younger people in the field having a theoretical understanding, garbage in, garbage out, and yes, we need to have data audits and data
Hmm.
maintenance and hygiene, but that training has to come from our generation as we're mentoring and training the next generation. So I really like both of those points and would like to have you just expand a little bit more. What's worked for you being mentored coming into this field and with the team that you work with at Pomona and maybe in volunteer roles as well?
Hmm.
How are you trying to take what you've learned and
Yeah,
both practically, professionally, but also the mentoring that the soft skills and the critical
right.
thinking in those roles in your life as well.
Yeah, so again, thank you for touching on that. I just want to quickly mention that. So I was on the board of one of the nonprofits in my area here
Mm.
for 2 years or so. And when I was brought onto the board, it was because it was an environmental organization, and specifically wildlife related organization. So I had like, yes, it was like back to my roots. I love it. So they brought me on board because they were looking for somebody who had some knowledge of development and fundraising.
Mm.
And I was like, I'm only a prospect researcher, but they say it's okay, it's better than nothing. None of us have any experience. So I was like, sure, let's do it.
All right.
Um, yeah. But that turned out to be really, really exciting. And it really kind of shifted my perspective as well, because that was also when I realized how important it is to be able to kind of bring the knowledge that I have learned from my day job, which is working at higher institution fundraising or previously at a museum level fundraising, and kind of try to apply some of the knowledge and experiences that I have gained towards these kinds of organizations. Because, when in my day job, I'm working in like a corporate environment
Yeah.
versus some of these organizations that are really, really small, and some of them may be volunteer only, right?
Yeah.
So they don't have resources. They have never heard about, if they have even heard about advancement and development, I'm like, oh wow, that's amazing. But it's that change in mindset when you are working in a big organization, in a big development shop, raising in like 9 or 10 figures. And then you have to pivot to an organization that if they can even raise 25,000 a year, everybody is jumping for joy.
Yes, I can imagine that.
Yeah. But that was kind of the situation that I went into.
Mm,
And I was really lucky that I was able to help that organization raise maybe nearly 30K that year, which was
great.
like, oh
Yeah.
my God, what just happened? That kind of. And I think in doing that, I was also kind of able to kind of change the mindset and mentality of some of the board members, because
Yeah.
at the get-go, a lot of them were very resistant. They were like, oh, fundraising. No, we can't ask anybody for money. We are free. Our services and programs are free for all. And that's what we ground ourselves. But I was like, no, if you don't have the money, you are not going to be able to run your programs.
Bingo.
Yeah. So when if there was a success, so-called, um, people come to realize that, yeah, there is truth and it can be done. I think the important thing is that it can be done.
Yes.
And I always tell organizations that I volunteer at that fundraising is not asking about money. It is building those relationships.
100%.
Yeah, right? If you don't even have those relationships, the money is not going to come in.
hmm
So again, it's taking what I have learned and experienced and scaling it accordingly to the organization that I work with or I volunteer at.
Yes. I really appreciate those answers and how they tie in together with your experience as a volunteer, now in prospect development, and drawing on your incredibly diverse background before then too. It's a really nice way of bringing that all together, Sok.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered all of the really rich questions, answers that you wanted to cover as well. And I just have one quick follow-up. You've got, is it a
Sure.
wolf pendant or what?
Oh,
You
oh my
mentioned
God, you have
your
sharp
animals.
eyes.
Yes.
I do have a wolf pendant, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. My sister got this for me when we went to Yellowstone Tetons together.
Oh, that's a beautiful part of the world.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it was
Yes.
fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yes.
Well, Sok, thank you very much for your time today. And I think I enjoy putting together questions for my guests. I feel equally as strongly having a level of enjoyment when guests like you say, "Hey, this might also be really interesting to cover as well." And then here's my
Mhm.
experience with it. Or I have some thoughts about it. They're not fully formed, but can we talk
Right.
about it? And you've done that
Right.
really well
Right.
today. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I really appreciate your time and, putting all this together.
My pleasure. Yeah, this is one of the things I most enjoy. And I feel
Great.
very grateful for guests and my audience that tune in week after week. And I look forward to sharing your conversation this spring, Sok. So thank you. And
Great.
I appreciate your patience because it'll be a few weeks
Oh,
for
that's
airtime.
fine. That is fine. Yeah. Thank you so much again, Tim.
My pleasure. And for our audience, you'll be able to find Sok Tng's conversation on the various channels you've grown accustomed to over the last 4 years. My website, thanks to my 100th guest, Luis Diaz of WISE and the Donor Participation Project. He's sponsoring people in fundraising.wordifysites.com, as well as on Podbean. You can find the audio portion, and then YouTube for the audio-visual people that like to watch the podcasts. I appreciate whoever tunes in, however they do. And all of those links will be shared once Sok's conversation airs. Well, Sok, thank you again, and I look forward to our paths crossing someday in real life.
Thank you, Tim.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.